not done it yet. Wait a minute.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our new, much anticipated Albany Avenue branch. Today we mark another milestone in the history of Hartford Public Library. The Albany branch was first established in 1926, 85 years ago. It was located right next door at the Northwest School when it was first opened. And then for a few years, we were in rented quarters across the street at 1239 Albany Avenue. However, in 1950, in February of 1950, the building that we just vacated was opened and designed by the architect H. Sage Goodwin, and it served our community and the people of the city well for the past 61 years. This branch, as all of you know, is strategically located on the Albany Avenue Highway 44 corridor that connects the entire city with the suburbs. And as a result, this particular library serves the information needs not only of the people of this neighborhood, but of the entire city, and also people of the greater Hartford area. It's surrounded by schools, museums, small family businesses, and community-based organizations that have supported this neighborhood and the city of Hartford for generations in the 85 years that we've been here. The branch has been beautifully designed by Savigny Architects, and Ray Savigny and his associate, Diana Lancer, and built exquisitely by the contractors from Capital Restoration. And I don't know if Doug's here, but Mrs. Brownfeld is here. As you see, it features a children's reading room with clouds. They're not real, but they look real. In this particular room, which accommodates a lot of people as a community room that will be used for library programs and also for the community's needs throughout the year. This site will have 24 public computers. The old site had 12. There are 20 access computers for the public and 4 additional catalogs that are in here. And this system is going to be built on a virtualized platform, which means that we're not going to be using the old technology of CPUs, the boxes that go with your computer. There'll be a single CPU so that monitors and keyboards are all you need. And what that does in the long run is it makes the expense of replacing computers less costly. And so we figured out a way to do that more efficiently, and we're starting it right here at the Albany branch. You're also going to notice that the landscape features a very elegant walkway that connects the library with the school and allows the school children and the teachers to navigate their way to the library without going through the parking lots and the driveways, and it's a good safety feature for this particular place. One of the great things about this new branch is where we're located with our neighbors. We have the Johnny Rogers African American Cultural Center next to us. We anticipate that opening, and we look forward to that. We're also with the amazing and dynamic Artist Collective, and also one of the great schools in our community, the Lewis Fox Complex, which will continue to undergo renovation and become as great a school as all of our schools are in the city of Hartford. We're very happy that this Albany branch will serve as an anchor institution here in our neighborhood and for our city, and that it will be considered a model for a 21st century public library facility, I think, in the country. Others might argue that it's only the state, but let's go for the country. There are many people to thank for such an enormous undertaking, an undertaking that took more than 10 years. Some of us were much younger, I think, when this happened, but we're not arguing about that. There were a committed core of neighborhood supporters, some of whom you'll hear from today, that stayed with this project, saw the vision originally, and helped make this happen. The mayor and the city council, without their help, this never would have happened. You probably all realize now that the entire expenditure of this facility was done by the city of Hartford. There was no assistance from the state on this project whatsoever. I know that was a difficult decision to make for our city leaders, but it was one that they made with a commitment to the promise they made more than 10 years ago that this branch would become a reality. I also want to thank the leadership of Jim Keeney from the Department of Public Works, who made sure that this project came to be through the construction phases. And again, the design brilliance of Savigny Architects and the construction team from Capital Restoration, the library's board, and the many staff members at the library here at this branch and throughout the system who worked diligently for this day. So, thank you. So let's begin the celebration. I wasn't the beginning of it. The beginning of it is the Honorable Pedro Segarra, Mayor of our great city.
We've got a full house here, standing room only. That's really good. You know, I got about 1,000 things that are running through my mind, and I have about a dozen speaking points, and I think I'll just be brief and just give you the mayoral perspective on what this is in terms of an accomplishment for our community. From the mayoral perspective, it's always a very delicate and difficult balance of how you take a city that is oftentimes financially challenged and make the priorities that are in tune with what the needs of the community are and have that balance. Understanding that ultimately, with limited dollars, it's only through working together in partnerships that we can really move towards that place that we want to be to achieve social and economic equality, something that is for a long period of time lacking in our communities. I'm hoping that this institution, which has so elegantly and so competently been led by Mr. Matt Poland, continues in its mission to bring this library, along with other libraries, to be a place like no other. It has been, I want to thank Savigny Architects for their vision in terms of giving us a vision of a building that does justice to our community and being treated respectfully. Capital Restoration, who was able to show that we can use projects like this to put our community to work, and in the process employ people from our community to do that work, which is very important. I want to also let you know that as we move to connecting all the dots in this community, I am very, very grateful to our neighbors, to Artists Collective, to the University of Hartford, to Christian Activities Council, Denise Beth, who's been an advocate of the project, and so many of you, the board of the library, which works very hard to make sure that this gets done. My council colleagues, who despite very difficult times agreed that this was a worthwhile investment and that we could make it happen and make it happen quick. So I want to thank all my council colleagues. I don't know if Council President Arjo Winch is here, but she was also a strong supporter of making sure that this made it into our capital improvement list, as well as my other council colleagues who are here, Councilman Corey Brinson, Councilman Robert Painter, Councilman Pante, who I saw, who else is here from council? Councilman Larry Deutsch, I think I saw here also as well. And I know Senator Coleman is here. I want to thank you because I think that our community, sometimes even though very silent in a sort of way, is, when approached, very clear about what's important. And I think that our children are one of our most valued treasures that's within our communities. And I'm just so thrilled to have this facility. Now our task is to continue to work to build stronger bridges with the community to make sure that we're utilized to the maximum potential. And I hope that we can partner up with the Johnny Rogers Cultural Center. Not only was he a former mentor and former professor, but it is an institution that will continue to further anchor and work with our other institutions to make sure that we can push our community forward. So thank you, congratulations, but understand that the work is not totally done yet. The building is important, the facilities are important, but what's important, or perhaps maybe what makes the difference, is our passion and our vision to continue to move forward. So thank you, Sarah Bar, for writing the writing points, but
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is now my pleasure to introduce someone who loves to come to the library. I've met him at the library a number of times now, and many of you may know him from his incredible role as a state senator here in the state of Connecticut. It's Biagio Billy Ciotto, and he's here to represent Congressman John Larson.
I just asked if Eric Coleman was here, and Eric, good morning, Senator. Always a pleasure to meet a former colleague. He and I have one thing in common. Everybody in this room is going to be terribly surprised. And not our voting record, not our advocacy for children and the underprivileged. We're both accomplished accordion players. Now, if you don't believe me, you can ask him that question. He'll verify. Is that right, Senator? I'm here representing the great congressman from the 1st Congressional District, John Larson, who fortunately is in Washington and gives me an opportunity to come here and say hello to you lovely people and the place to be. This is certainly gorgeous. It is with deep regret that I am unable to join you all today for this wonderful celebration. I want to offer my sincere congratulations to Matt Poland, Marion Amadeo. Did I get that right, Marion?
Yes.
Amadeo, there she is in the back, not taking any credit. Mary Green, Mary Tirzambazakis. Did I say that right?
Yes, you got it.
Well, not bad for a little Italian kid from Franklin Avenue, anyway. And the entire board of directors on today's ribbon-cutting ceremony. Of course, I also want to offer my sincere congratulations today to the city of Hartford. It is the citizens of this great city, who are getting the most from the opening of the Albany Avenue branch of the Hartford Public Library. Never forget that. We live in a digital age when people have a tendency to sometimes look at libraries as outdated institutions. However, the facility we stand in front of today stands as a model for what the future of libraries will be. In addition to the books, periodicals, and magazines that people have enjoyed for years, the facility also offers a new, largely computer lab that will allow individuals an opportunity to take advantage of new and future research opportunities. As evidenced by the downtown branch, public libraries provide important services to our community, allowing for increased access of information for all of our citizens. And I emphasize all of our citizens. Again, I want to congratulate everyone gathered here today on the opening of this facility, and I look forward to visiting it in person. It's signed, sincerely, John B. Larson, Member of Congress. Thank you for that very much. Now I'm going to take a personal note. Senators always in descending stand for a point of personal privilege, Mr. President. Well, I grew up in the south end of Hartford, son of Italian immigrants. We did not subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Newsweek, or Time magazine. We never had that in our house, okay, when we were growing up. But there was a library in the south end of Hartford next to St. Augustine Church called the Canfield branch of the Public Library. And believe it or not, were it not for that library, I know I would not be here today speaking to you as a senator, former state senator of 12 years, a former deputy commissioner of the Motor Vehicle Department, and now on the staff of Congressman John Larson. I would not be here. The library offered me opportunities to go get a book, read a book, and put it back. And you know, you hang out with a bunch of kids at the drugstore on the avenue looking at the pretty girls go by. You wouldn't tell your friends, I'm going to the library to look at a book or get a book, because your peers would laugh you down. But fortunately, I had that interest in reading and in history and government, and to this day has brought me here to speak before this beautiful group today. I thank God. I say God bless America, and God bless all of you. Thank you very much for having me. Hello.
And now I have the distinct honor of introducing someone who was responsible for the very first meat pie that I ever ate in Hartford. And it's Mr. George Scott. And he's here from the Upper Albany Main Street organization. However, he also represents the spirit of this project and was available to us during good times and bad times throughout this project, and never wavered in his commitment to the library, the city of Hartford, and the people who live in this community. So, Mr. Scott, I'd like to ask you to come to the front.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Very kind of you to have noticed that I was here. I would just like to say that this library is the product of an awful lot of work by many dedicated people. There's nobody in the Upper Albany area who has not looked forward to and hoped for this building. And by the way, I have to say, when we drove up here, it just seemed as if this place had been here all the time. Did you notice that? It belongs right here. And yet, it was an awful lot of argument and discussion and so on that brought it here. You would be surprised to know the number of suggestions that there was. But for the tenacity of a number of people who insisted that only the best was good enough for Albany Avenue, we would have had a library stuck away in a corner of the old school building over there. Or we would have had the previous building renovated and repaired. There were many arguments, many of you remember. And I remember one gentleman from the city. I don't remember his name. I don't remember his position. But he came to a meeting with us and he said, why are you thinking of replacing that library there or doing anything else? If you're going to make a change, the perfect and the only place for this building is right where it is now, on the corner, where it can be seen. It becomes a feature of Upper Albany. And that was the spark that set us off. There were many hold-ups in it. It has taken, Marilyn Reese, who has been in this thing right from the get-go, reminded me, not 10, 11 years. 11 years. And at each point, the question was, do we take second best and do what we're going to get us the library here as early as possible? The answer always was no. Only the best is going to be good enough for Upper Albany. And so we have waited. We've been disappointed, we've insisted, and eventually, and I have to mention the previous mayor, because he was the one in the beginning behind this, and I think he was the one who we have to thank for the fact that the city of Hartford is totally committed to this spot by putting their own money into it. So that it's not just Upper Albany. This represents the city of Hartford, the north end of Hartford, and it is a wonderful asset for us here in this neighborhood. We thank you all of you who have had anything at all to do with this, because everybody who has had the smallest part has been effective in bringing it into place. Thank you very much.
Now I'd like to introduce another strong supporter of this project for all of the years that we've been working at it, and that's Mr. Gerald Thorpe, who's the chairman of the Upper Albany Neighborhood Revitalization Zone. Gerald?
Thank you. Well, you know, I won't be 3 minutes. I won't be long at all. And after hearing our mayor, and after hearing Mr. George Scott, it's very good seeing you, Mr. Scott. I'd like to thank God first, the leader in all of our lives. But you can guess, I came along after Mr. Scott. I didn't know Mr. Scott. Even though I've been in Hartford all my life, I didn't know Mr. Scott. And Mr. Scott and I used to scrimmage. We used to have wrestling matches together. And Mr. Scott taught me a lot. Taught me a tremendous lot. You know, and I'm embarking upon 57 years of age now. Mr. Scott, I'm not going to say how old you are. But I've learned so much from Mr. Scott, Mr. Clyde Billington, if he's not here. You know, the mayor said some wonderful things. We're not done yet in Upper Albany. We're not finished. What I'm hoping for this year, 2012, that we, the neighborhood, could work on a plan, which we can call the strategic plan for Upper Albany. In the near future, we're going to embark upon building the town center project, the Upper Albany Development Corporation. You know, I learned a lot from everybody. I learned a lot from Christian Activity Council, from State Representative Kenneth Green. To believe me or not, Eddie and Kenneth Green have been my mentors for more than 25, 30 years. I used to be the one that everybody would run from in the meeting. I'd like to thank Marilyn, who we brought here in Upper Albany 12 years ago. Pat Williams, a lot of people I've learned a lot from. I remember growing up when the deer was not on the head of the deer on Deerfield Avenue. We worked together with Christian Activity Council, worked together with the Metropolitan District Commission on working on problem solving, people flooding basements, etc. Believe me, you all, we have to work together to create some jobs on Albany Avenue. We got to keep our state representatives alive because we have to come to reality this Route 44 improvement study. We have a lot of work to do in Upper Albany. We got the beautiful park. I'd like to one day talk to the mayor about putting a sculpture at the Aaron Fine over there where you meet where you meet Ridgefield and Greenfield Street. We have a platform. You know, job creation. That's the word this 2012. And I'd like to thank everybody for attending. And I know there's someone else coming up ahead of me. And thank you very much for embarking upon Upper Albany. And I tell you again, we got a lot of work on Albany Avenue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Now I'd like to introduce Pat Williams, another longtime supporter of this project, who's the director of the Upper Albany Neighborhood Collaborative. Pat?
Did I lose Sandra Borges? Where is she? Oh, you're hiding from me again. I would like to recognize Sandy. Sandy and I worked in the manager's office together for 10 years. And that just reminded me that I've watched this building go up from across the street. So I have an advantage and I could visit the site and sort of sneak in when the sorry, brownfields, when the superintendent wasn't looking. And I was always pleased and I was always impressed that this was going to be a great place. Mayor Perez, at a time when this project had been going on for many years and we'd sort of gotten stuck, if you'll all remember, on a number of occasions, just said, can you come and help us? So I was fortunate to be brought in to sort of facilitate the process to allow the community to weigh in on where it was going to go once it was stuck. And the community not only responded, but they identified what was important for them, such as this room, that the community would use this library educationally through the use of books and materials electronically to search for jobs and opportunities, and through meeting together to try to mobilize the community. That is what you've done, and Ray has done a terrific job. My planning director side says it's light and airy. You can see out, you can see in. That's a mark of a good building, and I do want to congratulate you for it. I will add that one of the positive aspects of the steering committee was that always adults meet to talk about what's going to happen in the community. But because we met in the library, we were joined by the young people doing just what they're doing now. They sat very politely and then raised their hand and said, we'd like to speak, and told us what they thought and what they did in libraries. And I think that was an eye-opener, and it was important for the committee to take them into consideration before you finish your planning and not see what happens afterward. So I congratulate everybody that was involved. It was an amalgam of people that had to make it happen. I'm glad I was a part of it. This is sort of the beginning step of what we're calling an education and cultural campus. We intend to unite all these buildings that everybody has named in one campus environment so our children can walk from place to place and learn and be excited and experience cultural institutions, and the adults, because they need it too. Because if the adults get interested in the library and participate in the library, they'll bring their children along. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce yet another one of the strong pillars of this program and supporter over the last 10 years, Denise Best, who's the coordinator of the Comprehensive Community Development for the Christian Activities Council. Denise?
Thank you, Matt, and good afternoon, everybody, especially the youth. I'm so happy that you ladies and gentlemen came in. It's all about you. You know, 25 years ago, there was an occasion when I was introduced to the then branch manager, Anwar Ahmad. And as we reached for each other's hands, he said to me, "You must be Naima's mother." Well, that was the first time I was ever recognized through my child. But she came to the Albany branch library every day after school to do her homework and to wait for me to get out of work from across the street at the Urban League of Greater Hartford so that we could travel 2 blocks home together. It was at the library where her love of books and learning and her passion for research developed. And it was not the first time that I would meet some of her beloved librarians. She worked in Virginia State's library during the school year, and then at Trinity's Watkinson Library during the summers, where she learned to repair rare books. So you can imagine that I was quite pleased when 6 or 7 years ago, the branch manager, Celestia Simmons, invited me to serve on the library committee along with Pat Williams and George Scott and Gerald Thorpe and Marilyn Reese and others who had already been working on the project for like 5 or 6 years. So I came sort of late to the library steering committee. And so this is a result of a 10/11-year vision that was promised to the community by Mayor Eddie Perez, put on paper by Ray Savigny, constructed by our own Doug Bromfield, and brought to fruition by our Mayor Pedro Segarra. This is a fine example of what can happen when a community works together. Last spring, my 4 grandchildren, who have already developed a love of books, joined other budding artists, young artists, to create this wall behind me. And so the cycle continues. The Albany Library has always been a safe zone for our children, a place for them to connect with mentors and tutors like Jackie Bright standing back there. For meeting authors, and a meeting place for adults for classes on literacy and assistance with tax preparation. And now in this state-of-the-art facility, there is the capacity to do even more. This is indeed a grand day for our community. Thank you very much.
Denise mentioned 2 of our branch managers, and I'd like to say that we have had a history of incredibly good public servants and librarians who have worked at the Albany branch. And Anwar is here today. Anwar is doing what Anwar does. He's out shaking hands, and you know, he's out there in the lobby. Celestia Simmons, who's here with us today. And the newest member of our team here at the library, Corey Fleming, who is your new We hope that you felt you've been in good hands through all the years that the library has been here, and we look forward to that partnership going forward. I also want to tell you that I am honored today that the state librarian is here, Ken Wiggin, from the state of Connecticut. a strong supporter of what we do as public libraries in the state of Connecticut. And so, finally, I want to introduce someone who has been very important to me over the last 2 years, since I've been the CEO. And over the last 2 years, he's been the president of the board. It's been a great 2 years, and a lot of things have happened over that period of time that I hope we're both grateful for. And so, without further ado, let me introduce Greg Davis.
Thank you very much, Matt. This is a very, very exciting time for all of us. And it's a bit emotional for me because I'm a North End kid and grew up going to the Blue Hills branch and had an uncle who lived across the street, so came to the Albany branch. And so the library has always been a very instrumental place in our family. And I didn't realize that I would be doing a closing remarks because I had 5 pages of stuff that I wanted to share. But since we're ready to get to the ribbon cutting, I would say that this project has truly been a partnership between the library, the city, and the community. I want to thank the mayor and members of council for their financial support and also for their support of the vision of the library to have this building here. It means a lot to all of us, but particularly to those folks who live in this community and use the building. For many people, this intersection of Blue Hills and Albany is sort of the gateway to the North End. And I know I and many of you take a lot of pride in the fact that folks will be driving down, and you've heard about sort of the cultural center location being here with the John Rogers, the Artists Collective, the schools, and more to come. So it's very exciting. I particularly want to thank members of the community for participating in the process. We had members who were in the design committee, folks who participated in surveys, polling, and this could not happen without the community support. The board completed, along with the staff, a strategic plan last December. We went on a 12-month strategic plan. And the first 2 priorities or goals of the strategic plan, the first one was service delivery in the branches, the importance of the branches. And the second goal or priority was our commitment to literacy. And as you can see, what we have here is a testament to what we did in the strategic planning. And it's my hope that we'll continue to see this good work throughout the city. And I really thank the mayor and council for all of their support and making the vision happen. And finally, I want to give a big thanks to our CEO, Matt Poland, who has done a tremendous job over the last 2 years, and to his staff. We have a great staff, and we have, in my opinion, the best library system in the state of Connecticut, and we've been recognized nationally, and it all starts at the top. But we can never forget all the folks who work every day to bring and deliver the services to the folks in the community and to the young people. And my term as president is ending on Thursday, but this truly has been one of the most meaningful community experiences that I've had as a professional, and look forward to continued service on the board. But thank you all so much for coming out and for making this dream a reality for everyone. Thank you.